I'm not gonna change the, sorry, that's material. Okay, it is now 6:31, I'll open the meeting. And we're gonna start with our budget hearings this week. And we've got that through the May meeting. We're gonna start with IT. And we're gonna get you right up and going.
All right, Jeff Sorrell, IT Director for Town of Charlton. Basically, the meat and potatoes for the whole budget is good news. I was within budget all year, and I don't need any additional funds for next year. We can go over line items if you like, and I can tell you what has gone away, what has changed, what has moved, and what will be added for next year.
Just the highlights, Jim.
All right, so first two sections, no change. Down to services and supplies. Account 5210. The first line item, various software and licenses. We moved 6,000. We're moving 6,000 out of that various licenses and software to the next account down, 5211, to cover additional expenses. So no money is needed. We're just moving a little bit of money from one to another. Some things have moved. For example, the Pitney Bowes postage machine used to be in my budget, and it got moved to municipal. I've never used a stamp in 7 years, so there's nothing really. It's just a maintenance fee. Couple things have gone. For a big one would be ClearGov, but we also, in Harper's applicant tracking, but we also added the Livix budgeting software.
So ClearGov, we're done with ClearGov?
Correct.
Not using them as a software? Okay.
Yep.
We produced a much better budget document last year, not utilizing it, so we decided to.
Gotcha.
So that freed up some funds, and then Andrew also purchased the Livix budgeting software, which was substantially lower. So that gave us the decrease in that account, and along with moving some money to the other account, takes care of expenses in the next account 5211. Basically, just a couple additional licensing. The biggest thing was the, in the middle, it says Barracuda Email Archiver. That's where some of the money came from in the previous account, because they no longer support on-premise device. We have to go to cloud-based. And that was a big expense, for me anyway. It's a $5,000 increase. So, and the next item that's highlighted in bold is PRTG. That's server software, monitoring software. They upped their price from like $2,400 to $8,000, so I dropped them like a bad hat, and we're looking at new software and demoing new software now. Everything else, there's no change. The next sheet you have, the little sub-sheet, the 8.5 by 11, is what I anticipate coming up for next year. If you look at the other sheet, I came in a little under budget for the whole year, but we're about to eat that up with this addendum. So the PRTG replacement, which is a server monitoring software, is going to be about $4,000. We're demoing that right now. It's working out good. We're probably going to go with that. A lot of the next items come from the fire substation. When that becomes active, there's going to be a lot of licensing that happens. I talked to the fire chief. He anticipates about 5 new employees. So we need office licensing, Duo licensing for two-factor authentication, Adobe licensing, Viper licensing for antivirus. He's going to have about 19 systems in there that are going to require antivirus.
19 systems in the substation?
Yes. 6 of them will probably be monitoring units that have the I am responding, so they can, and camera systems so they can see around the station. But that is part of the licensing as well. Camera licensing, from looking at the plans, there appears to be about 15 cameras that could go down, could go up. They might come across a spot that needs some coverage. We'll add another camera. So that's what the first camera licensing. And Wi-Fi access points. They may have another dead spot somewhere. We may add another Wi-Fi access point. But this is just for the licensing. The hardware, I'm already taking care of that with different money. It's hardware money. This is licensing money that's going to carry over year after year, where the hardware is just a one-time.
Is there going to be a cell tower on that building?
I don't know. I know
That's a
they're going to
huge dead
utilize
spot in town.
Baypath a little bit.
Yeah.
I know that we've been doing radio work and getting fiber to the Baypath tower.
Okay, so maybe that'll help from that angle.
Yeah, I reached out to Verizon because the chief asked me to, so when the station has like more sod up there in the
Mhm.
spring, I'll reach back out to them and they'll come out and do some testing.
Okay.
And if they need to, they might put some sort of a tower on there or something.
Yeah,
Okay.
microwave or who knows. But that's, if you have any questions, I'm open, but that's basically just my budget. I don't need any money, and we should be all set for next year as well.
Chief, body cameras, is that a licensed product too that would fall into IT?
I have nothing to do with
That's
body
why I'm
cameras.
asking, because he's sitting here.
Well,
It's in his.
yeah, we put it in our budget, there is a cost to it, but we've been fortunate with the grants to buy the initial equipment, and it's just, that's what's, tends to be the money item, is the cloud
Okay.
storage.
I was just thinking only because this seems to be all licensing. I mean, that's basically what you do. And I didn't know whether the police,
Yeah, there's, I mean,
Cameras
there's a lot of licensing, to be honest, that I shouldn't even deal with, but it's there, so I track people down and see what the costs are.
okay.
But as far as, like I said, my licensing, that's this sheet and the second 5211, the second, account is what I know.
I think the way we look at it is if it's like for a specific department and I can pinpoint that one department,
Yeah,
it falls under their budget, but like when it deals with multiple departments, we put it in IT.
Yeah, like the cameras are town-wide, the Wi-Fi access points are town-wide.
Yeah, like Vadar software is all of our, like, financial software, that's town-wide. Harper's, which is our payroll software, that's town-wide, so like that comes out of,
Right, which,
Like that.
actually, if you look at the first sheet under the 5210 budget, you can see that the Harper's applicant tracking onboarding, 3K was moved to accounting. So, because they want to keep all that HR onboarding in one spot, because they're the only people that use it. So Ashley took that over to add it to like the Vadar or something.
yeah, so
like
it
that.
comes into, the way we pay the bill, because I don't split the bill, it just comes in with our every week payroll processing bill. We just paid out of, it comes out of my budget, so I took it out of his because of our cost.
Right, we took the money out of that account, moving it to hers to cover that. But otherwise than that, there's not that much of a change, and I don't need any funds, and it should be all set for next year.
and there's no capital equipment,
I've pretty much, I should be all set.
You're all set.
I'm getting ready for 3 major projects, one being the fire substation. The fiber, we got a grant to run most of the fiber that's going to the Bay Path Tower and to the new fire substation, but we're short, so I have funds for that. And we're gonna need a completely new phone system, townwide, brand new.
I think I've heard you say something to
Yeah,
that.
but
before.
we're end of life this year. We're flying without a net at the end of this year, so I'm
Yes.
hoping to replace it this year.
Estimated cost?
Or next year, actually. Excuse me?
Estimated cost?
Getting quotes, getting demos as we speak. If things go the way I plan, it should be less than what we're paying now, because there's no on-premise hardware, they're all IP phones.
Oh, okay.
So the support should be less, there's no associated cost for any hardware, which we usually pick up anyway, but we would pay support monies to have it here, and then we'd have to run it. It'd be on our electric, in our data rooms and whatnot.
Yeah.
But there's no switches, there's no servers, it's all cloud-based, program it online, and good to go. I'm expecting at least a 30% decrease in the phone budget.
No problem. Would this, if he could get this done before the Maytown meeting, we wouldn't have to wait till October in the capital.
He gets
I have it.
80,000, yeah,
I
every
have
year
it.
anyway.
Well, you've got the money.
I do.
Yeah, we usually give him 80,000 every year as like a continuing
Right.
capital request anyway, and he just usually eats away at that.
Okay,
And with the grant that we got for the fiber, I have the money to cover the phone system.
gotcha.
Because I had the money ready for the fiber optics to go from here to Bay Path and then to the fire substation. But we got about a grant that covers 3/4 of it. So with that money, now I have the money to cover the phone system.
And that same 90 will cover, you think, most of the equipment for the hardware for the police station, the fire station?
I have money for that as well.
Right, okay.
I have money
Yep.
that, we're taking care of the access controls, the cameras, the Wi-Fi access points, the desktop computers, monitors, and some displays. Displays are cheap, they're like $200 these days for a little LCD.
A lot of that cost is in the FF&E budget
Right.
for the fire station.
Okay.
Yeah, and some unique things that we didn't want the other company to touch, we said take that out of the cost, because we didn't wanna have them put in something that was proprietary or didn't match with what we already have, that we're using, so.
Okay.
We should be good to cover all the three big projects.
And you probably have said this before, but where are our main servers? Where's the bulk
They're
of
in
it?
several spots. They're
So-
in multiple buildings in town.
Okay.
Here,
So
PD,
if I can't take us out totally,
correct. Plus, all the data is stored
it's still
off-site,
offline.
whole different geographical location.
Yep.
So,
And I'm assuming you've got us well protected against foreign intrusions, okay?
yeah, still, that's what, part of what the annual, town article that I receive is for updates, upgrades, new firewalls, new subscriptions, additional, better servers, getting into the AI aspect of the
Okay,
anti-intrusion.
gotcha. Anybody here got any questions? Jeff?
That was pretty good.
Christian, got any questions? No, she just took herself off mute but didn't say anything. Christian? All right, I'm gonna assume she doesn't. Jeff, thank you very much.
Okay.
All right, chief.
No, you can't, that's my fault. Do you want me to go get, I didn't print cheese cap, or we can go print it for you guys?
No, we're not gonna give him any money.
That's not for me. I like that.
Oh, yeah, appreciate it. Just like to initially report, we're in very good shape. I don't think our fleet has ever been in the shape that it is now, as it's been in the past. We've always had issues. We're in decent shape with the fleet. Staffing, we're good. It's a generational thing. A lot of the officers, the younger officers that we bring on are more interested in time off than money. So having bodies, Gary might pull his hair out, but it does allow us to give people time off, is what they're looking for. We're fully staffed, nobody out on injuries or anything, so we're in pretty good shape overall.
How's
Now,
dispatching look?
jump into the budget if you want
Got
to.
all the dispatchers you need now?
Yes.
Yep.
So that's, regional dispatch is coming, but it's not gonna happen overnight. So that could be a year or two in the works, we don't know. So we're, business as usual until there's a decision made as far as selection of a building and what that turnover will look like. But we've been very fortunate, we've maintained everybody, and they're doing a great job.
Good.
What do you wanna hit first? You wanna do ACO, cause it's quick, and Ashley just surprised me with it?
There's no change.
Yeah.
Yeah, look,
It's easy. So basically, the ACO budget consists of a full-time ACO officer and 2 part-time ACOs that fill in over the weekend and holidays when she's unavailable. As far as her cost, we brought in veterinary services, sometimes depending on how many animals they have and whether they need to go to the vet. Supplies, maintenance, and septic pumping, which is about $1,000. We're just doing it more often because I don't know if she's washing stuff down there more than we had. We've had the tank checked. Maybe if the town decides to stay put and wants to remain in the ACO business, maybe we look at a septic system, but that's quite an expense. Regional's a big thing for ACOs right now that's being, bantered around by a lot of communities, because it's so hard to find people that, are available 24/7, and it's easy to just share resources, but until that decision is made, we're just gonna, pump up the tank and run that way.
we've got a big holding tank, and when she washes down dogs.
Yeah, it's
washes
just like a
the
regular
kennels, it
septic
just
system
collects.
to a house, it's just, but it's filling up quicker, so we just added some money for that, but that's the only reason. But we've had it tested to make sure it's not leaking or groundwater's coming into it, and seems to be just use.
Okay. Everybody good with? Yep.
That's ACO.
ACO?
You wanna do capital, or you wanna do right into the budget?
Let's get right to the budget.
All right, not a lot of changes. Now, we've had some increases, but some of that's contractual. So the town and the police union just came to, they signed a contract, but it had some retroactive pay involved, and those prices, the increases are reflected now accurately for next year and the year after. As far as, there's one little caveat that, we threw in a position, and this is only gonna happen if the school, there's excuse me, let me backtrack. There's a law that basically says that towns are urged to have an SRO in their school systems. it hasn't really been enforced. There's no teeth to it right now, but it's starting to become a trend thing, depending on what communities want an SRO in the school. They cite this law, but it's not a mandate, it's more of a suggestion. It's urged that you do this. So, speaking with Steve Lamache, the superintendent, he's basically said, hey, could you, we came into a deal if we'd pay half if they'd pay half, but I can't take an officer off the road and put him in the school unless the school's committed to this too, and I think that they have to
Which
show
school-
financial.
Which school are we talking about?
Dudley
The high school?
Charlton, yeah, our
The high-
schools.
Just the high school?
Right, so Bay Path has a,
middle.
Bay Path has their own, they provide for an officer for
Okay,
Bay
yeah.
Path, but we don't have one in the middle school, the elementary school, we don't have an SRO. What we'd probably do is hire one person, the school would pay half if their budget passes. So I guess before you see their budget, that's something that they've proposed. And then if they were to do that, we would look for that other half of salary to put somebody in the school and have them bounce around to the 3 schools. If the schools, that budget gets slashed, we're not interested in doing it. Like, I can't take an officer off the road for the purposes of putting somebody in the school and make it work. It's just sometimes we don't have the staffing to do it. So that's the only real surprise. We can go through it however you want to go through, the way we print it out. A lot of times you'll see something listed twice, like firearms. Sometimes that's because the way Mara breaks down the budget is she'll say, well, this is the cost of the bullets and the targets and the whatever is required, and then there's a salary line item. That's where we have to pay people to go to that training. So people work nights, we have to bring them in on day shift and send them to the range during the day, or we have to fill their shift and change their, so that's why sometimes it's listed twice. I think sometimes that's confusion to people. They'll say, how come firearms is listed under training and firearms is listed under an expense? The expense would be like the bullets and the targets, and then the salaries would be wages.
Why the increased cost in investigations, as an example of
A lot more time and effort is going into investigation, so that's probably the only reason why we've
Is that a-
increased it. So
Is
this
that
thing's,
number a time thing? It's not a person thing, that's a,
I'm sorry?
that's a time thing, so you've thrown in,
No, it's not for overtime, sir. It's more for like necessities within to investigate. So they just bought skimmers for the bank ATMs in case somebody's misusing it. That was like $1,000. Well, we take it out of the detective line. If they need fingerprint pads, if they need something to do, process a crime scene, something related to the detective unit.
so it's not a specific person or.
It's not no, sir. It's just the cost with that unit it's an expense line for them to use. Now, sometimes we use it and sometimes we kick it back. It all depends on what their needs are, but we try to specifically have it designated for them to, if they need something for their specific unit, we try to have them utilize that money.
All right, so now I'm seeing something I rarely ever see. You actually went down in something.
It was probably a mistake.
Uniform allowances?
Uniform allowances, yeah, went down $1,000, $500. Went down $500.
You did ask this, as mentioned, I don't know if Ashley gave you the one with the what expenses you asked, but for, what the, I think it was $25,600 or for the software as far as the body worn cameras.
Yeah.
Where did I see the X on it? Oh, for the 25,626, so almost $26,000. Some of the software we can't control, the fingerprint machine's expensive, it's like, to Jeff's point, it's proprietary, so we're kind of stuck.
Have you
with vendor.
instituted body cams yet?
What's that?
Totally? You've totally, Gary,
Yeah, we have the body worn cameras,
Okay.
but like the chief was saying, the contract went up in reference to the cloud, the storage, that's the big expense.
right, I remember that was going to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, and that's the
biggest
future. I mean, it
bugaboo.
was difficult to think about how much we would be spending on servers, and when we came before the board, I think there was a push that they wanted on the cloud if we could make that happen.
Yeah.
It's becoming a necessity, so the courts are asking for it, so there's quite a bit of discovery, so, but we've been actually pretty happy with The
With
product,
the system that you've got? I
Yeah.
remember there was
Yeah,
talk
it's
to that,
great.
it kind of like, when they walked in the building, it automatically uploaded. or-
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you're close enough to the ports, it automatically uploads, and like the chief's saying, we have discovery from court, public records request on them. We have Axon, so other towns might have Motorola. The camera system here, that's another, Dudley's looking at that system, like, I forget the camera system name in here. But we went with Axon. We're really happy with Axon.
so there's a couple neat things. If you pull out your firearm, it immediately records whether you want it to or not, which I think is important. If there ever was a deadly shooting situation, at least it backtracks, I think, 30 seconds before.
Right.
Because it's always on, just may not always be recording.
Right.
But it'll save 30 seconds before you pulled your holster, 30 seconds before you took out your mace, 30 seconds before you took out your taser, for instance. You can set these things up so that if there ever was a, oh my God moment, the officer doesn't have to think about it, so that's
Yeah, I
helpful.
turn mine on, his automatically turns on when he shows up, that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
it marries each other.
Nice.
And then, obviously, when they're done with it, they just go back in and plug it in, it downloads, they don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
So, but,
Everybody's reception to it was great?
well, no, but everybody's warmed up to it, which was surprised, I didn't think it was gonna go that way. I thought people would be like, this is, but
Yeah, okay.
it's not an issue, and I think the couple times there's been accusations, the body worn camera has proven them right, and the other person
Yeah.
made it up.
Yeah.
So I think they
They're
go back to, hey, this
beginning
was
to
awesome,
see,
because
yeah.
the whole thing was on video, and I never said what they said, and so they like that part of it.
Yeah, oh, good, good.
How
Remember,
far, when you have the storage, how far can you go back if there was like an incident? Is there?
So, what the officers have to do is they have to categorize the event. So say we go to an armed robbery, unusual, but say we went to an armed robbery, we would have to categorize that, and they would save it for a much longer period of time.
Okay.
And then if it's just something, you're getting a speeding ticket or something, it doesn't have to be saved as long. So what was the lieutenant previously, Keith Cluter, did is he made these categories, and then based upon law and public records, he determined how long things would have to be
Okay.
saved.
So based on the severity of the issue?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So, some things by public records have to be stored longer, so it just automatically, as long as they put them in, and we try to make it, as simple as possible, so
Yeah.
they don't have to figure out, well, was this an A or a B, or, it's pretty easy to figure out what it is. But,
That's cool.
good. Any other questions on cameras while we're, Christian, any questions at this point? No, she's still on mute.
She did post a
She sent a
note.
message out.
She sent a
For
message.
some reason it's not working.
Oh, okay.
I would say that Jeff's been a huge help too. He just did his speech, and I didn't want to stand up and applaud, but he has helped us tremendously with any IT issues we've had, and he's very good about his budget. If he can make things happen, okay, you need a new phone, we're not, he's helped out tremendously.
Good.
Good.
We had talked, I think, last year, or it was maybe the year before, you were gonna try and go through leasing cars. You were gonna try this program
So
on
far,
leasing
so
cars.
good.
How's that?
So,
I'd like an update.
we wanted to do it in baby steps, incrementally. I didn't want to
Yeah.
put it out on patrol and find out that they put on, 120,000 miles and the warranty's gone. So we had to kind of strategically put cars where we thought that they would be in a good position and low miles, but so far, so good.
Yeah.
And we do like the program.
Good.
But we're new to it. So, right
Right.
now, we haven't had any
But
issues,
but,
but who knows,
so
in a
it's
year,
something that you're gonna
you may get a different opinion from me, but right now, they've been good
We
to
just
deal
made
with.
our first payment, actually. I'm pretty sure. If it didn't just go out, it will go out next week.
The first payment, so how many cars are we leasing today?
3.
All three?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So in October, you're gonna be looking to renew.
Well,
go
you want to
through
do
new
capital? We can do
lease?
capital.
He does wanna talk about capital.
Well, I'm
Okay,
saying,
fine. Let's
so
talk
cars
about
are back
capital.
in, so-
Okay.
I'll put it in the Dropbox later today.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't have a copy of the capital, but.
You probably don't want to hear about construction, because construction was what killed us with Route 20, a lot of use for cars. But there's another part of the Route 20 project starting at some point. But initially, it's going to be paving, and it could possibly be lane changes and rotaries. I'm not privy to the ultimate direction they go in, but they're going to do some preliminary paving, I believe, in the spring, basically from like the Sturbridge line to 169. They're also doing over 31 from like the mill to the Spencer line.
Okay.
So you know, there's a lot of paving going on, they're gonna be looking for details, so cars again are going to be being utilized quite a bit. What we typically have done is ask for 3 cars. The only reason that's up is because the cost of cars have gone up, you know, as far as, but it's not it's typically what we've asked for, I think was $240, but it's $250, we just factored in, to the best of our knowledge, that's probably the ballpark prices of what 3 cars would be. If we don't need them, we don't need them, but better to know we can get them if we do.
Yeah.
Another dilemma, and, you know, Gary goes nuts about the time delay on cruisers. It's just crazy. It's every vendor, so it's not like
Yeah.
it's, you know, you should just find another vendor. They're all experiencing the same problem.
Right.
Ford will promise a product and they'll say it'll be out, but it isn't. GM will say the same thing. It's just slow and it's delayed. So sometimes it almost takes a year for us. I don't even want to talk about fire trucks. You know, I don't know how many years those sometimes
Right.
take. It's just,
2 to 3.
we're fortunate,
Right.
but it's slow. And then some of the parts and stuff that we put in the cruisers, the equipment, the cages and things like that, until we know what kind of vehicle we have, we can't order those and have like a warehouse full of them because we gotta make sure they fit. You know, if you get a Chevy product, you need a Chevy piece that fits in a Chevy. If you get a Ford product, and a lot of times we're waiting to see what the prices are, because if I buy a Chevy and then I find out the Ford's cheaper, then Hank's gonna call me and say I'm an idiot and I should have gotten the Fords, or I should have waited. So we try to be patient to get our numbers and have an idea of what the market is. But, so when we do that number, it's basically that 250 you'll see on our capital for cruisers is 3 cruisers. And again, sometimes we need them, sometimes we don't, but the town was wise, in my opinion, to get vehicle reemplacement insurance, so when we unfortunately have an accident, whether we're the cause of the accident or the victim of the accident, the car gets replaced, but what it doesn't replace is the equipment. So sometimes we have to, you know, come up with some money to offset it. You know, we may get a Chevy and we had a Ford, and the Ford stuff doesn't flip over because we can get it back right away. That's something we just, it's a cost of doing business.
Yeah. It's a crap, sounds like it's a crap shoot.
Just
Yeah.
curious, what's your total fleet of cars? How many do you have total?
Probably, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head right now with everything we've got back. We've got well,
20, 30?
Yeah, good number's 20, 22.
like we have a car that we paid for 2 years ago that we still haven't gotten. You know, so, you know, eventually we'll get there, but something will leave too.
Yeah,
So
so-
we're big on, as a car comes in, a car goes out. You know, and what we typically do is before we
Yeah.
put them up for auction, well, municipal bid, we change them from a fleet car to a detail car so that the patrol cars aren't sitting there idling unnecessarily. So
yeah.
we try to put the older cars out there. It's not always possible because if all the cars are out and being repaired, you can only do what you can do. But it's my pet peeve when I see the new cars on Route 20, but if they're the only cars left, I can't begrudge them. They, you know,
Right.
needed a car, so they need,
Yeah, so three cars a year is 6, 7 years rotation, or 8?
yeah, usually. Some of we've made out better than that.
Depending,
But
yeah.
it depends on how often it's used, and there's other cars, you know, we'll be surprised, well, that's the oldest car, then we go and look at the mileage and say, well, no, that's staying, because the mileage is not bad in this car, and the car that we thought was better, when we look at the mileage, said, oh,
Right.
that's probably the car. we
When you're
need
out in
more.
everything, the salt, they
Yeah, we
have
have,
to rot eventually.
we have a few that have real high mileage, and it's not that they're not safe for the road, but we try to use them for just details only
Yeah.
because of the high mileage, and, you know, can't really use them for patrol.
Right.
Couple of the other things as awesome as Jeff is, Jeff says, hey, the cruisers, they have computers in the cruisers, that's your problem, not my problem. He's not wrong, so so when you see that I have a cruiser technology or something, that's typically because we're responsible for the laptops and the systems that are in the cruisers. Jeff will handle it if it's in the building, so if it's in my office, I can call Jeff, he'll take care of that. But if it's in the car, Jeff will come and help us, but he'll say, hey, that bill is on you, because that's specific to the cruiser.
That'd be something like software that does the license plates.
Exactly, just kind of like what Ashley said, so that's kind of Jeff's mindset, so we know, so we put some money aside in cases we need to replace a computer, sometimes there's software and the computers are not upgradable, and then we gotta get new cruisers, but we've caught up with all the Windows 10 issues, so all our laptops are in good working order.
About the building itself?
Building's in
Other than
decent
the
shape.
windows, I
I mean,
saw
it's
windows.
tight, but I mean, it is a decent building. You know, I think that the town was wise to fix the fire department before thinking about the police department, you know, as far as physical needs are concerned. We've done a lot of maintenance to that building over the years. I was looking through pictures the other day, and between ripping, the flooring was falling, collapsing, and the shop, I mean, all the things that we did, and you look and you go, oh yeah, I remember that project, and remember this, so it's been nice that we've been able to stay on the building.
Yeah, yeah.
Andrew helped out with the roof a few years ago, that was, you know, a problem. The big problem with the building, besides being tight, is parking. As you mentioned, we got a lot of cars. They gotta be parked. Then the employees come in, and sometimes it's easy, one goes in and one goes out, but it's not always. But in the back of us, we got a cell tower, and then we also have wetlands, so it's a little difficult. We're trying to work something with McClure to see if there's a possible way of, you know, maybe expanding the parking lot, but I think a lot of times when you get into wetlands, it's a lot of give back, and, you know, I think that, I don't wanna speak about, you know, Andrew would probably be a better person to speak to about how that would work with the lease we have, or the option we have on that property, that Masonic home that we abut. You know, they'd probably have to say they're okay with that, if we, so.
And that's that 500K line item that
So
kind
that's
of
paving the parking lot, so
Okay,
I
it's
don't wanna
different.
pave the parking lot if the parking lot's gonna get expanded, because I'm cheap. And
Okay.
I feel like, why am I paving if we're only gonna rip it up to, so I
Okay.
kind of, I keep pushing it off a year or two, but it's not like the car Christine, it's not fixing itself in the meantime, we're getting it seal coated and stuff, but it's starting to show its age. I originally had Jerry Foskett look at it and say, what do you think? And he originally said, hey, you're fine. And I said, okay, but then he came back another day, and he goes, no, this needs to be ripped. I said, you told me it was fine. He goes, I was in a bad mood that day. This needs to be fixed. I said, okay, we'll get on it, we'll throw it out there, but I need a ballpark number. So that's what I do, that's where I got that number from. He said, it's probably gonna cost you this much, but I don't want to do it twice. Like, if we're gonna spend the money, let's have a plan, and
I'm assuming, Andrew, that's something you've got.
Yeah, so, yeah, we had a meeting today with, our architect, engineer, we brought on, because we have a lot of these capital projects that it's kind of like we need to get from just talking about them and putting money aside to actually developing some plans around. So we're going through a priority list of all the stuff that we've had ongoing, and this is one of those projects that's kind of on their list, that they're gonna develop a scope of work for us. We're gonna, you know, bring one request in for doing the design, and then the next request will be for the
The actual construction, okay. All right.
You've been kicking this one down the road for a while now.
well, it needs to get done eventually, but I
Yeah.
don't know that we'll survive. I know other departments have needs, and, you know, it's not the end of the world, but somebody's got to trip, fall, and
Yeah.
at some point it's gonna catch up to us, at some point, but I understand, you know, there's a plan, it's just, about like, to Andrew's point, we just gotta make sure everybody's in line and do it at the right time, and,
So I did visit the station last week for the first time, and I can't remember the last time I was in there. What struck me, what I'll remember, okay, is I walked into that cubicle, and I felt like I was in a cave
yeah.
because of those black windows.
Yeah.
Is that a safety thing or mandated
A
thing?
little bit, it's,
And then all of a sudden, some woman out of the,
yeah, so they can see you from the
Oh,
inside.
I'm sure
right,
they
you know,
could.
So, but what we had, you know, and it's just, I'm just being honest with you, we had a dispatcher who was pregnant.
Yeah.
And of course, we had a First Amendment order to come in and harass her and then go on and on about her being fat and, you know, I mean, and, you know, it wasn't me, it was, she's pregnant, I got a reason to be fat. You can, you know, you can make fun of me, but not somebody that, you know, she's pregnant, so. That became a big thing, that they were staring at him and everything, so we said, you know what, let's tint it. It maybe probably is too tinted at this point, but
It's
it was
black.
cheap. Yeah, you know what
It's
it was?
black.
It was
I
cheap.
mean-
It was like $100, and he said, yeah, that's a quick fix. and he came in and he tinted it, but then now we look at it like, from when we're inside, we see out into the lobby because you got the light.
Right.
We see you fine,
Right.
you have a
Right.
problem seeing us.
Yeah. No,
So-
I walked in and she said hello. And it was
Right.
like, okay, where'd that come from?
Right.
Okay? Was it
Right.
this window or that one? So I'm just
Right.
mentioning
Yep,
it because it was,
I've had a couple other people say that, and then when they heard the reason why, they're like, well,
Yeah.
you know what, that's probably not a bad idea to leave it like that. So I
You
said, you
gotta
know what?
recognize that we have more screens in dispatch now, and it's visible through the lobby,
okay.
so another.
There's a
another
core
reason we had
reason,
to-
that's what
makes
he's
sense,
referring
yeah.
to. If you see the screen, you weren't supposed to see it.
Right.
So we're supposed to do things, and other than creating walls, and sometimes the $100 tint was the way to go, because it's just a film
Is that all
on the
it is?
glass. Yeah, it's just a film you put on the glass, you know.
Yeah,
like-
it's like our cruisers, Jeff had to put the automatic shutdown on the cruiser, so if an officer steps out and a person looks in, you can see our laptop, it automatically shuts down within, I don't know, 15 seconds without Jeff would be able to
Yeah,
tell.
it's an absolute pain, because the minute you turn your head or something, you
You
gotta
gotta
log back
log
in.
back
You know,
in.
like,
But it's
the
understandable.
idea
I
is.
can't get this thing
I
on
know.
more than 5 minutes before it
The
turns black,
idea
so I
is
get
that
it.
you wouldn't
Yes.
want your information, somebody coming in and getting your information, so we understand the why, and
Yeah.
we don't get to vet it, whether we think it's a great idea or a bad idea, we have to do it.
Yeah.
So, that was a couple of the reasons.
All right, any questions of Gary or the chief? No. Christian, can you still hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yes.
Yes.
You got any questions of the chief?
No, I'm all set. Thank you, Chief.
Okay, all right.
Thank you,
Thank
appreciate
you
your
very
time.
much, guys. Thank you.
Now we can talk about how big of a pain in the butt he is.
Well, I would, but I know that Drew is still taping over there and he'll watch it, okay?
Edit it out later.
Have a good night.
Thanks, chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Recreation,
Yes,
you're up,
beautiful.
ahead of schedule.
Yes.
This is going well.
Representing Recreation Commission.
All right, high points of your budget? Much
Well,
change from last year?
there is, a slight increase on the line item for Old Home Day, and that was requested by the Old Home Day Committee, and that just gets budgeted in our particular budget amount for recreation. But everything else stays the same.
Well, what was it? No, it
I
was,
think it's the same, unless they ask separate, it's the same from last year.
I was gonna say, I don't see a difference,
Yeah,
right?
it's the same from last year.
Yeah.
Okay. So we bumped it up to 8 last year, right? Even though they asked for 25.
Right.
Okay. How did Old Home Day make out as far as financial goes?
I'm not part of that committee, so I
Okay,
don't know.
well, I didn't know whether they reported or.
No.
Okay.
Well, I didn't hear anything, so no news is
Yeah,
good
that's
news.
true too, right.
Yeah.
They haven't said anything. Yeah, otherwise it's the same budget as last year.
Flat?
I have no questions.
That's an easy one.
That was a very easy one. Thank you very much for
Beautiful.
making the effort down. Okay?
Love that. Thank you so much.
Our pleasure.
Have a great night.
Thank you. Do the same. Okay, so you guys can come up and sit with us. All right, so just a quick review of the schedule. I know I put it in my packet somewhere.
Right here. This, the agenda?
No, the schedule for this coming, just so we know what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, 'cause, we had a question mark on the 18th. The one with the school committee?
It's the 11th.
It's the 11th, now, okay.
So we're doing the 11th, not the 18th.
And then we're meeting the 25th
Okay, sworn in.
for our budget hearings.
So it's the 18th?
No,
The
11th.
11th, I think, yeah, is with the school committee, so I don't know what where will be determined. And then we're meeting February 25th for budget hearings,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and then March 11th for budget hearings. And then, again, 2 weeks after that. I have to look at my phone to see.
What time is February 11th?
Oh, that I don't know.
Put 6:30 in, but I don't know if that's.
I don't know if that's true. I think they sent us an email, like a preliminary to save the date. me see if I can find it.
Because we're meeting there, I assume.
Yes, I just don't know
At Shepherd Hill.
where. It's usually Shepherd Hill, I think, because it's bigger.
Yeah, 6:30
Is it 6:30?
Yeah.
30?
at Shepherd Hill Library.
Thank you.
So then our March meeting is the 11th and then the 25th of March.
School committee is the 11th, right?
School committee is the 11th, yep.
Budget.
And then March 11th and
Will be your last budget hearings.
Are those all the same? The school committee one, I had a question mark on, the last one I printed out.
Yeah, so that will be February 11th.
And then the 25th and the 11th,
Will stay the
are they
same. And then the
So-
11th of March, yep.
Yeah, so I don't have to, I just gotta go write that down.
Okay. Next up, we've got the meeting minutes from December 17th. Hope everybody's had a chance to read them. If there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
A motion.
I have a motion.
second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no.
Yes.
I vote yes. Sorry, Christian. I vote yes. It's unanimous. Ashley, you can just initial, or you want me just initial Christian's?
Yeah, you can initial,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Okay. Christian, I'm gonna sign for you.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, approval last. Next on, we had an update on, how's your health insurance
Do you-
program going?
Do you really want to take
I really wanna know.
We had so we have an IAC meeting that happens with Hampshire Group, which is the big trust. Had that today. We got preliminary insurance rate increases, I guess you can say, maybe. They're looking anywhere probably from 16 to 20% increase.
Again.
15 to 20?
16 to 20.
16 to 20.
Yeah. There's currently, we know of 6 groups that are leaving the trust. They all had favorable claims data, so that hurts us. They're leaving to go to the GIC, which is the state insurance. Potentially, you have between now and April for more groups to leave. If they don't want to talk about if more groups are leaving, but I'm sure if more groups leave and they leave with favorable data, that's also going to hurt the trust. So, because they're the ones that are paying to cover the groups that have unfavorable claims, obviously.
Have we ever gotten our loss runs?
Yeah. They're
Okay.
not great. They're not awful, but we're not favorable.
Right.
But we're not awful. We are currently out to bid. Our insurance insurance advisory, NFP, put out an RFP that we hopefully will get some quotes back next week from companies if they choose to bid on us. So hopefully, I'm crossing my fingers, we get some favorable data. We're meeting again with Hampshire the end of February, so we'll have a set rate by then. So we basically have like 3 seconds to make a decision between that and then if we choose, they're gonna definitely have plan design changes if we stay with the trust. I don't know, it's
Yeah.
not great. We were talking about it earlier, just, it's like depressing to talk about.
Which bad news do you want first?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So we don't have great news, but we're hoping out that we get some nice quotes back from the RFP process. So we'll know probably within the first week of February. We'll schedule an internal IAC meeting. We'll probably have 2 in February, and then we have to vote because open enrollment will start end of March, beginning of April. But if we're changing and we have plan design changes, we have to go through a whole process. So it's gonna be like, we have like literally 3 seconds to
So
do
if we
everything.
stay with them and we get a 20% increase, how does that affect our internal stuff here? Our contracts and our agreements with our employees and?
Well, it's another cost that's gonna be weighed out to the employees, and the town, 20% to our insurance budget. We just realized 40% last year, but it's 80-20 split for pretty much all employees that, they're bearing 20% of that increase.
Yeah.
when you're talking about cost of living adjustments, it's also a discussion as to whether or not that's even covering that,
Right.
that cost adjustment for most people.
For most, especially the 40%, I don't think anyone ended up in the positive from
Right.
40, maybe
Right.
a handful of people.
So most of our agreements are not for a dollar value, they're for a percentage. You pay 20, we pay 80, and,
Well, that's the way our insurance splits are currently, is about an 80-20 split.
Yep.
Now that we've had all three unions ratify their contracts, they all have the provision that any new employee as of January 1st of this year is at a 75-25 split. So,
okay.
as these, insurance increases keep hitting, unfortunately, it's gonna hit them even harder than existing employees, but it defers some of our cost impact. But we know that any, major increase to insurance isn't just a hit to the town, it's a hit to the employees.
Right. And then we have to keep
It's
it.
never an easy discussion to have.
Right. We have to keep in mind too that if we do leave the trust, we have to pay our claims run out for up to 18 months. So maybe we have a 10% increase from a new company, but we have to still raise the budget because we're gonna have to also pay the new company, but still pay our claims from Hampshire
Right, we could have 50, 70, $80,000 worth of claims.
a month. Right. Because we have to pay dollar for dollar whatever claims come in.
Right,
Because there's no, so like, normally you pay you will pay the insurance company and then they pay out your claims, you just pay them a premium. That's not how it is. We pay the trust a premium and the trust pays dollar for dollar to to the doctor's offices or insurance. Like, they pay the insurance claims.
right.
So like, if you get hit with a $5,000 insurance bill from going to your doctors, the trust pays that out. It doesn't, the Blue Cross kind of just runs it through, but the trust is paying everything, so we'll get that bill passed down to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Have we ever looked at, maybe we've talked about this before, self-insuring to a dollar value?
I think we still would need somebody like a Blue Cross to process
Right.
the claims for us. It's just a matter of the pool. So, if you have a, Blue Cross carrier that's only quoting you based off of 100 employees, you're not gonna get as favorable of a rate as, or as better return
Right.
as a pool that has, 900 or 1,000 employees. And that's why being part of a large trust is typically beneficial. And we've just ended up in a situation where the trust had made some financial decisions thinking that they were in a short-term
right.
deficit a few years back, and that turned out to just be a minor bump in the road compared to where we are now. So,
So,
Yeah, I know the bigger the group and the better the rates.
yeah.
And if you're saying that our loss runs were not great, okay? If our
I mean,
loss
they're
runs
not-
were like, yeah,
they're
we
not
did
awful.
$5,000 for the last year,
Yeah.
that'd be one thing.
Right. They're not awful, but we're definitely, like, the premium that we're paying to the trust doesn't cover our claims. It's not huge. We're not, like, talking another $1 million, but
Right.
we're definitely not favorable.
Right,
So,
yeah.
So what would be the difference from staying in that trust or going to the state run?
the state insurance isn't great. It's weird. So, like, you could maybe, I don't know, like, if you work for a company, you might live in Connecticut, but maybe you live in Massachusetts, but it doesn't matter, your insurance is the same. The state's not like that. If you live in a different state, even though you work in Massachusetts, but you live in Connecticut, you have to pick up a certain insurance, because even though you see doctors in Massachusetts, because where you live, they force you to pick a different plan, and it could be more expensive. It might not actually cover your doctor, so the state kind of controls that. I mean, it's not awful. The rates are higher than what we pay now. You do have more options for plan-wise. It's not awful, but it's not the greatest insurance. Like, our insurance, as much as this does stink to go through, it is still good insurance, so
yeah,
the hard part.
the biggest benefit is the stability, because as we've seen over the last few years,
Right.
is that the GIC, the state's plan, they haven't met the benchmark with their premiums, and then at the end of the year, the state, does a supplementary budget and fills the gap. Where right now, if that were to happen to us, we're the ones filling the gap.
Right.
But
Yeah, within a
it's
year.
under the assumption that the plan is supposed to be kind of self-funding.
Right.
At some someday, that, who knows when, the state will probably make some drastic changes to it, but, you know, it'd have to be kind of a political move on their part, because if they wouldn't increase premiums to every state and town employee that was in the trust, you know, that it probably would be a lot of people going after politicians at that point,
Right.
and that's
Right. Yeah, so I mean,
less palatable. That's why it's kind of like it maxes
Right.
out at like an 8% increase.
right. Yeah, and we have a say now at least. Like we sit, like, so my HR director and I, and usually Andrew hops on, we've been sitting in meetings at least once a month for a couple hours. And we actually, we do get a voice and we get a say and we get to vote. The GIC, you get what you get and you don't get upset. Like you get whatever they give you and that's what you get. Like you don't have a voice. Like you can't talk and say, okay, well, maybe instead of increasing 20%, what if we did what if we offered a high deductible, or what if we just increased the deductible more and maybe only went up 15%? Like we have that say now. Whereas if you go to the GIC, it's, these are the plans they offer, pick one. So, but still doom and gloom.
But you can rest assured that that line will be on every agenda.
That's fine.
So we figure this one
So
out.
hopefully by the end of February, so maybe for our like mid-March meeting, I'll have an
You'll
actual
have a
answer
better
for you.
answer, okay. All right. And I just think it's important that we stay up.
Yeah, no.
Next on the agenda, we had discussion of bonds. So we were gonna talk about a different topic at every meeting. And at last meeting, we talked about, let's learn about bonds.
So I put together a little PowerPoint. It's not as
Sure
fancy
you
as the one
did.
Andrews does, because I didn't go into Canva, but it's black and white. So
Okay.
I'll give you the high level of everything, and I'll kind of explain a little bit more than what's just summarized in here. So basically, there's a couple different kinds of bonds. So the first one, a municipal bond. They're debt issued by the state or a local government to finance for public projects for long-term investments. They're repaid over time with interest, but they're governed by Massachusetts law and local authorization. General obligation bond, or GO bond, which currently we have out for the fire substation. They're backed by the full and faith and the credit of the municipality. So you have to go through the whole rating process. They're repaid through property taxes, and they require voter approval, which is obviously town meeting. And then they're
Right, but
common for large projects in Massachusetts.
what is the majority for a bond? Isn't it 2/3?
2/3.
Okay.
And then if you would need to pay them back and you can't afford it under the levy, that's different. You'd have to go through debt exclusion and capital exclusion and all that. So I can talk about that later.
Yeah.
Capital bonds, you use them for long-term capital assets. They only have a certain useful life, so it's up to 10 years. You can use them for schools, public safety buildings, roads, but they can't exceed the useful life of the asset. So if you, the state determines usually what a useful life is, and then you can't borrow for anything longer than what they say the asset's good for. Equipment bonds, you can only use them for obviously purchasing equipment. They have obviously a shorter useful life than buildings. You can use them on like fire trucks, police vehicles, DPW equipment, and then usually they're shorter bond terms. You're gonna go anywhere from like 3 to 10. Usually they're like 5 to 10 years. You can go shorter if you wanted to. And then construction bonds are used specifically for constructing or renovating facilities, and they are often part of a larger capital bond purchase, and then they fund the actual building phase. So you could go and get like a temporary construction bond when you're in the process, and then you can go take out a long-term bond afterwards.
So a construction bond is almost like a subset of a capital bond?
Kind of, yeah. Usually they're short-term, and you would just take them out. They usually don't call them that. We usually we'll take like a 1 year, almost like a note out, but it's essentially the same thing. So you use it, it's like a temporary borrowing.
And how often do we use this one versus?
So you'll most likely use them in the short-term duration when you're building, like especially like a big project. So like right now, we have 2 borrowings out on the fire substation, since that's our current, we'll use that as an example. So we knew that when we did the borrowing authorization for the project, we did a certain piece under the levy limit, and then we did a certain piece outside the levy limit. So we had to exclude a piece, then we did a certain piece inside. because I knew the set dollar for the inside piece, and I knew we were gonna obviously use that, I borrowed that long-term right away, because I knew we were gonna use it, and the amount wasn't gonna change, and it was a small piece. The excluded piece, because we didn't know for sure how much the project was gonna cost, we borrowed short-term on a portion of it, and then as we wrap up the project, because we borrowed in April, and the building won't be finished till the fall, we'll go short-term again. Because if the project comes in under budget from the total project cost, I don't wanna borrow that full portion, cause I now need to charge the taxpayers to pay that back as an exclusion extra on your taxes. And DOR doesn't like us to pay for extra things if you're not using the money. You would have to use all of it at that point, and I don't wanna do that. So what we'll do is we'll borrow short-term for the piece that we think we're gonna need the rest on, and then whatever we don't use, we'll almost close back to the project. We'll have to go back to town meeting, but you'll leave that piece out, and I won't have to borrow that piece. So then I'll go back and borrow long-term for the actual cost of the project. So it saves us money, borrowing costs, taxpayer money. So it's nicer to go short-term and do the rolls every year than it is to go back and borrow long-term and then have to adjust, because it's a pain to have to go backwards.
Yep.
So we'll usually use the short-term ones more often, and a lot of the times we'll even use the short-term ones to pay for equipment, because it might be a little bit cheaper. So we can just like borrow like a 1-year short-term note from the state. They usually call them state house notes. And you can do that, and you'll borrow it short-term, and you'll just pay interest and then the principal costs as like a pay down, and then borrow a little bit less next year. And it usually ends up being a little bit cheaper. Depends on how the market is.
But once you're awarded a bond, somebody bids on it, you're paid on it as you requested it, the money?
So if it's a long-term borrowing and it's permanent, you have to pay its principal payment once a year and then interest payment twice a year. So it's every 6 months.
Right, but
If it's
you take out a $1
short-term,
million bond, they're not writing you a check for $1 million.
yeah, they're giving us the million
That
up
day?
front. Yep, so
Even
if,
okay.
so yes, if it's a long-term permanent borrowing, they give us the $1 million up front, and then we pay a principal payment every year and then a 2 interest payment every year. And then if it's a short-term note, they'll give us the $1 million up front, and then a year from now, we have to pay the $1 million back plus interest. So usually what we'll do is we'll time it, and I'll say, okay, if we're gonna do a short-term borrowing, I'll take the $1 million, it's due, say, the 15th of March or April. I'll borrow like the 13th of April permanently, and then pay back the $1 million, so I'll get the money in, and then I'll 2 days later pay the money out. So we always time it, so if you're gonna do the borrowing, that you're not just paying out money and then waiting for more money to come in. I'd rather the money come in from the note and then go back out. So we always make sure we're timing with when everything's due.
Okay. So that $1 million sits in its own account, it's got its own, right, and it can actually make interest? Can you make interest on that? They
No,
allow it? No?
no. Mass law doesn't allow you to gain interest on it.
It's just kind of odd, if they're giving you all the money up
Yeah.
front, why wouldn't they allow you to utilize it?
Yeah,
It's just,
they don't want you to make money off of the money that you're borrowing. So,
no, I get
Yeah.
the concept,
I
it's
know.
just, the practicality of it doesn't make sense.
Yep. So how do you determine which one you're gonna use? So you would wanna first determine the useful life of your asset, match it to your bond term life, or asset life, which obviously law requires. And then you have to know, is your purchase a movable piece of equipment, or is it permanent structure? So is it fixed to the ground, or can you move it around? And then you consider the total project cost and voter authorization. So like, are you gonna need a debt exclusion on it? Are you gonna need, can you do it under the levy limit? Do you just need to go to town meeting and vote for a borrowing authorization? And then we obviously consult internally with our finance team. We talk to our financial advisor, talk to bond counsel, and then sometimes you get DOR involved if we needed to, but we usually don't need to. But consult them if you had questions on what they would allow something. But usually your financial advisor and bond counsel know pretty much everything.
Yeah, DOR a lot of times will defer to say, well, as long as
Right.
defer to bond counsel.
Yeah.
I know the question had come up when talking about the structure of the debt exclusion vote.
Yeah.
Where, I think there was some debate as to whether or not we could exclude a certain dollar figure.
Right.
And, the questions went to DOR, and DOR basically said, ask your bond counsel.
Yeah.
So bond counsel said, understood what we were trying to do, drafted it up, and that's,
Right. It's not normal that they do that. Usually if you're gonna exclude it, you're gonna exclude the whole project.
Right.
Towns don't usually just exclude pieces, but being strategic, and we knew we had some inside levy capacity to be able to do it. We just know we didn't have the whole piece for the problem is you have to think, this building you're gonna borrow now, but if you're taking it out for 30 years, I don't know what the financial stability of the town is in year 20, never mind year 30 or year 10. So you have to think like long-term range of, I can maybe forecast out pretty accurately 5 years, but when you get to like the 10, 15, 20-year mark, you never know how things are, so. And what other borrowings you're gonna need, like, what if this building fell down tomorrow? I can't plan for that, so we try to think of the best interest of the town for financial-wise, but try to go out and be as physically responsible as we can. So, and then obviously there's just a summary of the differences between them, bond structure and why it matters. So we want to obviously make sure that we're spreading the costs to the taxpayers, but they're benefiting from the assets. So you're not taking a piece of equipment and saying, okay, well, I know that we're going to keep this piece of equipment around for only 5 years, but I take a 10-year note on it or something. So like we're being still spreading the cost out to the taxpayer with what we know we're going to use the asset for. So the asset may have a 10-year lifespan, but maybe we know that we beat the piece of equipment up too much because of the ledge in town or something, so I can only use it for 5 years. So I'm just being sound of that. Making sure that we're keeping municipal finances stable, try to time debt projects, so like when one debt rolls off, we have another debt coming on, so it's less of a burden to the taxpayers, because it's more you're being stable rather than being volatile and going up and down with everything. When you get rated by out in the bond market, they look for that because you're being more financially stable. And then obviously making sure that you're being in compliance with all of your mass finance laws. And all that's governed by MGL Chapter 44, Sections 15 through 24. The town in there gives you what you are and aren't allowed to do. Part of that is town meeting must authorize the treasurer to borrow. So you have to go to town meeting to authorize your project, and then in that borrowing, in that authorization for the project, we also include like a borrowing note in there that the town will allow the treasurer to go out to borrow, or we could pay with other funds if we had it. And then from there, once we have the authorization, the select board will approve based on where all the bids come in when we go out to the market. So they finalize the rates. And then obviously debt limits still apply to everything. So if you're doing stuff, if you're borrowing, and you're not getting a separate debt exclusion vote or a capital exclusion vote, that you have to pay for everything inside the debt limit. You can't just raise taxes outside the limit without a valid vote. So basically, if you're gonna take a borrowing out and it's for a building, you can only go out and do a debt exclusion for the life of that debt. So if you're taking out a 20-year borrowing, it'd be a 20-year debt exclusion, and then once your 20 years are over, that debt exclusion would fall off. There is new provisions in the law. You can take a one-year debt exclusion out. They never used to do that for like a capital thing. If you have like a one-time hit for things like OPEB or like a capital dollar, not equipment-wise. So we can do that now. And then DLS and DOR kind of are the oversight of everything. And then lastly, how are the town finances affected? So if your borrowing is not timed correctly, we could potentially drop our rating we use S&P, but when you go out to the bond market, so we're always talking with our financial advisor, thinking, okay, well, right now we know we have XYZ, but what's coming up the pipeline? And if you don't account for other borrowings, and when they go to rate you and you don't tell them you potentially could have other projects coming up, and then you go out to borrow again, that affects your rating and they will drop you. So there's all these guidelines that they set. Some of them are in our control, some of them are outside of our control. The guidelines just changed, I think was it last September? It was right before we went out. Yeah. So like a lot of the stuff now is out of our control. So like the per capita, what median income to the town, to like what the taxpayers make.
It goes to the county.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, it was for the town versus like what the county makes. So like, are you favorable in what your residents make It's like, how do I have control of that? I can control like what our finances look like in the town, but I can't control like what the people that live in town make. Another one was like how fully vested our county retirement system is. Like, I have no control over that either. They set the rate and it is what it is. And there's a couple other things that I'm like, well, this is silly. Like, it's completely out of our control, but it does affect your rating. So like where we might have moved up to a AAA, we didn't this last time when we went out because of those things I can't control. But I can control what we can control internally. So we're always talking about forecasting out and looking at where our levy might be in the next couple of years, but then also still like budgeting like physically responsibly and being conservative. But then like knowing that when we go into the fall, when we get new growth, that we're being like using that strategically and maybe not spending all of it and closing some to the excess levy because they look at all of that. And they don't want to see like a huge shift, and they want to make sure you're like staying steady, and they look at all those things. So those are all things that we talk about all the time and we can control, but some things we can't. We're always working closely with our financial advisor, and as we go out to borrow, we're making sure we're meeting with them. And like I said, we're forecasting and ahead and always looking at things, so.
Okay, so several times you've used the phrase going to market.
Yep. So.
Describe going to market.
So basically, there's two different ways. So one is if we're going out for like a long-term borrowing, our financial advisor puts like basically a RFP out there, which is like a request or a request for bids, so or an IFB. They put that out there for us, and then they'll either call into him with rates. So like say.
So he takes that packet. Let's
Yep.
slow
So
down.
he'll
he
take the
puts
packet.
that packet together.
He does it all. So
All right.
we
With
give
all
him
that
the information
that you had just talked about.
Yep.
What our town's annual income is.
Yeah. So we
what
have a
our
whole like
debt
booklet.
level is. Yeah. Okay.
Yep, that we put
So
together.
That's in a packet that he
Yep.
puts together.
So between us and him, we put together like a packet. It's got like our number of building permits we did in the past year, how much taxes we've collected, how much tax title stuff we have. Like it's got a bunch of different information in there. They print like a pretty thick booklet. Obviously, they put it online. So that goes out. They do all that with our help. They collect bids. They take those bids.
All right, so who's bidding? Again, I'm going
Any
to slow you
banks.
down a little bit. So these are brokerage
Yep.
firms? They could
Yep.
be...
Financial institution.
Yep, anyone that wants to, that thinks that we're usually within like your certain bond rating, you get different people to bid on you.
Right.
The different banks, financial institutions, whoever. If you're obviously rated higher, you'll get different ones, maybe more than if you're rated.
So when did that rating actually take place? By the, not
Like
by
a
the
month-
financial advisor, I mean,
Nope. So we have to go. So here, I'll start from the beginning. So if we know that we're going to go out to the market to go out for bids, we have you already did your town meeting vote, which bond council wrote your vote and all. So you already did all that piece. That piece is done. You went to town meeting, it got approved, you're allowed to borrow. We sit with our financial advisor and we put together that booklet. So he sends us the report. We fill out all the information. He takes that and then he gives it to the rating company. So we've been using S&P lately. S&P we'll get on a phone call. It's usually Andrew, myself, my treasurer, and my assessor. So it's the four of us from finance. We'll sit down with them and they'll ask us a bunch of questions.
We get grilled for an hour,
Yeah.
basically on the financial stability of the town and where we think the town's going to be,
Yeah.
and prove that we are in a financially good place.
Right.
You know,
So
that
we'll
we
talk
know what
about
we're
things.
talking about.
Right.
all that
Talk
stuff.
about like big projects that have gone around in town, maybe some things that are up and coming, how we're growing economically.
We get rated on our management. of
Right.
The municipality.
Yeah. How we think internally we're doing, like things like that. And they can ask us any kind of question they want, basically.
will the auditor's letter, they'll read all that.
So
It's all in this.
The
Yep.
actual report.
Yep, in that booklet, our financials go out with it. So they get all of that.
Yeah.
We sit for like an hour, like you said, on the phone with them. It's usually a video call. And then they go back, they write a report, and they determine whatever our bond rating is.
S&P does.
S&P does, yep. So there's two companies, S&P and
Moody's.
From there, whatever our bond rating is, it's usually like maybe couple weeks later, they'll put together a packet for the financial institutions to bid on us. It goes out to the market, and usually because we bid at like 11 o'clock in the morning, they go off prior day, whatever their prior day close number was. And then they send in their bids into our financial advisor, and then he takes all of those and whatever the lowest is with the, usually we get some sort of a return back. They call them
Excuse
bond
me, but Are these
proceeds.
sealed bids, kinda like what you do on
Yeah.
GCs and stuff
Yeah.
for the,
Basically pops up and says, here's the, 10 people that bid on you, and
These are their
this is
quotes,
the number.
yeah.
yeah, okay.
So 3%, 4%, but then also within that, like 3 and 4% rates, they also get like what they call bond proceeds. So if you had $1 million borrowing, you could get $50,000 back in bond proceeds, so that would reduce your borrowing by $50,000. So different companies bid different amounts. So whatever one is the most advantageous for us, so the lowest percentage-wise with the best bond proceeds we'll award the bid to them. And then from there, we get a stack of paperwork that my treasurer has to sign, and then she has to go in front of the Board of Selectmen, and they will authorize her to go with that company, and then they sign, the town clerk signs and seals and stamps it, and then all that goes out to our financial advisor and the awarding company, whoever got the awarding bid, and then they get all the paperwork, and then usually a few days later, we get the money in the bank.
Yep.
Sometimes, if it's like a small, like 1-year note, our treasurer will get all of those bids, so she'll get phone calls or emails, and she'll have to take them all, and then she has to report them back to the financial advisor, and then we pick, obviously, whoever the lowest one. That usually doesn't have bond proceeds with it.
Who is our financial advisor?
We use Unibank, and his name's David Eisenthal. That's who we use
At Unibank.
at Unibank, yeah. Like, I think that the financial advising team is called UFOSI, but they're through Unibank.
Okay, is that a, state-approved
Yep,
place? Okay, I imagine there's not too many of these.
Almost everybody uses them.
yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, almost they have a lot of clients in Massachusetts. I think a lot of people use them like for their banking, like municipalities use them for banking too, so.
Yep.
They're one of the biggest, I think, municipal banks in the state,
Yeah,
at least in this area. Like, I know almost like, I would say probably like 90% of the towns around here use them, so,
no kidding. Never would have thought that of Unibank.
yeah,
Not what I consider one of the bigger.
yeah.
bigger
So,
banks.
that's
Okay,
pretty much from start to beginning, like the whole
Right.
process.
Okay.
It's a lot of
that's.
work.
Yeah, that's basically, we decide to spend $1 million, and that's how you get $1 million
Yeah.
from a bank.
Yep. So
Okay.
our next one, we just had a phone call with them. We're gonna go we did a 1-year note for the big portion of the fire substation. It's like 12, we did 12.1 million, almost 12.2. So for that, it's coming due in April. So they're gonna start the process now. I have to put all that booklet information together for them, send it to them. They do their thing with it. I sent them our financials already, and then we'll take all that, and then that will go, we'll have to go get re-rated again, because we're doing such a big borrowing, even though it's a 1-year.
For another 1 year.
Right, because it's a 1 year, because it's so much money, we still have to go out and get re-rated again, so we'll go through the whole process again for a short-term borrowing, which will come due probably next January, I think we said, and then we're gonna have to go through the whole process again and do a permanent borrowing.
Other than the cost of time, Ashley's time and the treasurer, are there any other costs associated with getting a bond?
Yeah. I'm
So
trying to remember what the cost is.
if we have to use bond counsel at all, we have to pay bond counsel. We're gonna have to pay S&P to rate us, and then we pay Unibank or UFOSI for their time, whatever they've spent on it. And then obviously,
We'll typically include those costs within the project cost.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
so,
What does it cost to get rated by S&P?
I wanna say last time, but we did 2 off the top of my head, and this might not be correct. I wanna say it was, yeah,
I think 12,000.
but I don't know if that was
That
UFOSI
could be
too.
Multiple times a year.
Well, I think
Well.
total with the UFOSI bill, it was like 12. But that might have been for 2 borrowings, so it might be a little bit different now, because we're only going for, well, I guess we're still doing both again, the landfill and, so.
Yeah.
It's not cheap, but it's,
But thank goodness we don't do it every other week.
right.
Right.
And there are some towns that do go out to the market, like a lot, so they'll borrow money for everything, just, I don't know,
It's a necessity.
yeah, so.
So that's
Needs
why
to be
you
rated.
pretty much do it within the context of the total project cost. I mean,
Right.
we're not even having these conversations usually unless it's at least $1 million project.
Right. And obviously, the bigger the borrowing, you're gonna have, like, if it's a small borrowing, we don't have to do all of these. Like, I won't have to go to the market if it's only $1 million. not, sorry, I won't have to go get rated by S&P if it's only $1 million.
It's a big bond.
But if it's a big dollar amount, and I don't know what the threshold is anymore, but if it's a big dollar amount, we have to go get rated. But if it's if it's a small dollar, we usually don't have to go out to the market to go get rated by S&P. We'll still have to go to the market. They just use our old rating.
Yeah. And what's that rating on, AA?
Or
Double A
AA plus, yeah.
AA plus, okay.
And the
Which
next
helps us
step would
a
be
lot with
triple
the
A.
rate.
It does, yeah, because that's better than the state rating. The state, I think are they a B or an A? I have to look. I know we're higher than whatever the state rating is, so it does help you because you're better than what the benchmark is, I guess you can call it. But so it does help,
Yeah.
So technically, we get the 12,000 back in interest.
more or less, yeah. Okay, you're getting a better
If
rate.
we
And
didn't have a good
usually,
rating, it would be the other.
usually the cost of the proceeds will be more than whatever it cost you to go out to do all of this. So like, say you have a $12 million project, we might get, say, $300,000 back in proceeds. So you use some of that to pay for the borrowing costs, and then you use the rest of it to pay down your whatever your note was.
Yeah.
So.
And so that anybody watching realizes how it works, but our stabilization, you know I'm a big stabilization fund guy. Explain how that has some bearing on bond ratings.
Yeah, so
and
they look
as part of
at-
that big package.
Yeah, they look at how much money you have in the bank saved for a rainy day. They look at how much you're using. Like, do you tax to the fullest? Do you use all your, like, how much did you close to the excess levy capacity? Like, they look at all of those things. They look at how much money you have in the bank. If you have no money in stabilization, you obviously don't know how to save. You're obviously not very financially responsible. If you tax to the full, like, obviously we don't tax to the fullest, but if your tax rate is like close to the $25 mark, obviously you're taxing to the fullest. You're taxing to every single penny you could. Is that good? Maybe. Is it bad? I don't know. That they decide all that stuff.
It's
They-
risk assessment, it's
Yeah.
basically, how much of a risk are you?
Right.
And if you can prove that, if things really went bad, you could still pay your bills.
Right.
You're gonna get a favorable rate.
Right.
And I know that the last time it was like, I think we had 7% of our operational budget in stabilization. We got dinged for it because our policy said 10%.
Right.
So once we
think
got
this
over
la-
that 10%.
This last time we didn't get dinged for that because when we went out last year, we had enough in stabilization. Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Okay. What's the rate that people are getting today? A little over 6%?
No, I think we were at like, I want to say we were like in the 4s
Really?
Yeah.
when we went last year. Yeah.
Of course, municipal's
threes.
gotta be different. You
Plus,
and I
we're
are.
a double A
Yeah.
plus, you know,
Right,
that's.
no, but I'm always thinking of commercial.
Yeah.
That's always in
I
the
was thinking we were
6%.
going to be in the 5s. I think we came back. I think we were in the 4s. Don't quote me, but I think
Yeah,
I
okay.
think we were. It wasn't bad. Not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Good.
It's been a year, and there's lots of numbers. So.
And sometimes the market can be really screwy. I remember at one point, short-term borrowing was a lot less costly than long-term, so a lot of towns were doing one-year notes over and over again versus going out long-term. And then I
Right.
think the market corrected itself, and people ended up going out long-term when
Yeah.
they had to.
Trended back the other way.
Yeah.
Right.
Because like a lot of the times, like we might go out and say we're going to borrow, let's say for like a fire engine. So it might be $1 million for the engine, but we borrowed it short term. So we did like a 1 year borrowing for $1 million, and then the next year we'll do a little bit of a pay down and pay interest. But the next year we'll only borrow say like $800,000. So we did a $200,000 principal payoff, and then so we do things like that too, because it was sometimes the market's a little bit better than going out and borrowing long term. Or doing like a permanent 5-year borrowing for the $1 million. It was better for me to do a little short-term pay down because also maybe the rates are going to change. So that's all things that we talk with the financial advisor about. Like, do you forecast seeing the rates coming down? Do you see them like spiking really high? I mean, you plan as best as you can, but sometimes it's better to do that than it is to do like a permanent 5-year borrowing and lock yourself in. So, especially when it's short-term years like that. Like 5 years is nothing. When it's like a 20-year, you want to lock in probably now than risk it, but
You've done a great job of packaging it all
I
up,
tried.
putting it together. I appreciate that. I'm sure everybody else does, and anybody watching this now knows how we get bonds, okay? Does anybody have an idea for a topic for next meeting? If if you don't have one off the top of your head, email me, and I'll make sure that
Okay.
Andrew and Ashley get it well in enough time before the next meeting that we can talk about that.
Sounds good.
Someone did approach me and said, how come you guys don't have an open meeting time like the Board of Selectmen does, where people can come in and ask you questions? Now, I've been on this thing for, I don't know, over 10 years, I've never heard of that. I don't,
You can have an open session if you want. What do they
well,
call it?
that's why I
Open
just
forum?
threw it out there. I mean, does anybody have any thoughts on that? Is it, we've never had anybody, I've never had anybody call me up and say, hey, can I come to a meeting and ask you a
I
question?
always
So,
thought this was open to the public, they
Yeah.
just
It
didn't come.
is, yeah.
I would think.
Yeah.
It's posted online.
It's a closed meeting?
No,
No.
it's posted online. It's open to the
Right.
public.
Right.
Anyone can come sit in here if they want to.
I just didn't know whether, if I put a line on the agenda, it might entice people to come, okay? But then you gotta let everybody know that, hey, we've got 10 minutes of open
Right.
public time, or,
I'd
Yeah.
almost suggest, keeping the discussion to the budgetary topics
Yeah.
to ensure that, the finance committee's scope doesn't stray outside of that.
Right.
I mean, generally, anything on the agenda is financially related, and that should be the only things that are being brought before the finance committee,
right,
so.
that's true, and but having it open, anybody can bring anything.
Right.
Okay. All right, so I'll say that to anybody watching, you wanna come and sit in the meeting, ask a question, you're more than welcome, okay?
There's always that other items unknown at time of posting. You could do it under there.
Yeah, we can do that, all right? But it's 10 minutes to 8, I want to end this at 8 o'clock, and so that gives you each 5 minutes to give us an update from the finance director and the town administrator.
Well, I think,
Deep in budget.
yeah, I say, we're really hitting it hard right now with budget. Before, I would say, I'm projecting either Tuesday or Wednesday of next week is probably when the governor will release her budget. That will give us at least a framework of what to anticipate from the schools and what we can put as kind of a hard
Placeholder.
/ soft placeholder number for unrestricted government aid. Right now, we're just kind of projecting at this point. I know there's, the governor's got her State of the Commonwealth address tomorrow night, and then the MMA conference over the weekend, so we'll probably get a preview as far as percentages, but we won't really know the numbers until
Right.
until the budget's officially released. Then kind of throw those numbers out the window anyway, because the
Right.
House and Senate are gonna do what they do, so. That's kind of our big thing right now, we're just kind of going through the budgets that are submitted and identifying those things that were continue operations or new requests.
Right.
And just saying like, okay, we have to make sure that we identify these things and then prioritize those as we get to it. I mean,
Yeah.
we're really, I think, in a strong financial position going into next year. I'm sure Ashley could probably attest, I think overall the budget operationally is performing very well. I just kind of going through it, there's nothing that really is at deficit. I think it's just the, snow and ice we're officially in the
Deficit
operational
spending.
deficit spending portion of it right now. Health insurance, I don't think we have to belabor it that much, kind of know where we're at. And then just kind of like, what's the long-term plan of the schools?
Yeah.
Fitting that into our
Right.
long-term
Yeah.
plans as
And
well.
then the other like big ticket thing is what to do about the new substation. Like, how do you budget for a building that we've never owned before? That's gonna have to go into FY27 too. So, like utility cost, whatever.
Yeah, it's
his
gonna be a bit
costs
of a feeling out
internal, so,
period of it,
yeah.
and I think that.
Trial and error.
I think October will give us a better window, but, we've already put placeholder numbers in, and I
Yeah.
think we'll be okay. I mean, there's gonna be certain allowances for the
And those
first year anyway.
placeholder numbers include 6 additional, right?
Well, it's
Employees.
well, so it's
we've
4.
committed to 4.
He's
I would say.
asking for 5.
He's asking for 5,
Yeah.
but you've committed to 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll tell
I
you right
remember
now,
there was a
we-
number of 6 at one time.
Yeah, so it was 6 total. We gave him 2 already. I think what was it last year, this past year,
Right, so it
and
was
then
a-
so he needs 4 more to complete the 6.
Okay, so it is 6.
It was
with the
6
new-
total,
Yeah.
but 4 for this time. We already gave him 2 bodies.
I would say, I think first it was a 2 and 2, so there was 2 added 3
4,
years ago,
yeah.
2 added the next year. Now, we knew that going to the new substation, we're gonna need at least 4 to
Right.
go to 7%. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I think so.
I believe 7 per
7
shift, so
Yeah.
that way he could do, so that way he
You
could
have
split
4
his
and 2.
crews equally.
Yeah. Or
I-
4 and 3 or something, yeah.
I think
Okay.
there's an additional fire inspector's position that he plans to bring forward to discuss with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
That will be, I know that's part of his request.
Yeah, and then I have 2 part-times from library, and then the half a body from police, so that's the new body
Okay.
request I got this year.
Okay.
Other than that, the landfill capping project officially started, so that's why I actually was talking about borrowing money, because that, we'll start spending on that. That's been, what, 5 years in the making at this point?
least. I think more than that.
Fire substation's at about 40% completion.
Looks good.
Yep. To say, it's the part where it goes up real quick and then everybody wonders what happened because all the stuff happens inside of it, so.
Right, right.
Once the roof's on, I'm sure everybody will be inside and it'll look like nothing's happening, but stuff's happening, but
Yeah.
we're still on track there. So those are really kind of the big hitters right now. You know, open a warrant, just see what everybody's requests are.
Yep.
Started a bylaw review committee just to start looking through the bylaws and suggest some ways to improve upon them. You know, first, you know, like have we passed some bylaws in the last few years that haven't been codified, or does other sections of the bylaws need to be amended to reflect things that haven't been codified yet? And then is there any structural modifications that need to be made, or bylaws that haven't been brought forward that would make our bylaws more complete? So that's kind of the charge of that committee, is to kind of go through that process and
Committee appointed by Board of
by
Selectmen.
the board. Yep. So that'll be kind of starting in the next few weeks, but
Yep.
I'm anticipating not much progress before annual town meeting, considering, warrant closes before you blink, so.
Okay. All right. I've got nothing else. Anybody got it? Christian, anything? Okay.
Yeah.
All good.
No, nothing, sorry.
Oh, okay, no, that's fine. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no. It
Yes.
is unanimous, yes. Thank you, Christian.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.